So this is a very weird, very unusual time that we're living in. And I'll explain what I mean by that here in a minute. This is Are We Not Entertained? Part of the Closing Tag Network. And if you're noticing a bit of a change in the layout, the format, and the camera angle, there are reasons for that. And I explained those reasons in the emergency pod. So if you are curious about any of that, go listen to the emergency pod that dropped yesterday. So, with that being said, uh, also, if you're not a professional wrestling fan, skip this episode. This is a professional wrestling episode right now. So, yeah. The timeline that we're living in 2023 is really weird. And what I mean by that is think about what has happened in the year 2023 in professional wrestling. We started the year with Impact basically just drudging along, nobody noticing it at all. Vince McMahon being completely maybe not completely out of wrestling. Triple H supposedly in charge, air quotes, in WWE. Tony Khan riding high and probably doing as much blow as Scarface will allow him to. And the NWA surging and looking to be a major force in professional wrestling. And in the last 11 months, we have seen, speaking of blow, a cocaine spot in a major wrestling pay-per-view. Never thought you'd see that, huh? Vince McMahon not only rising back up to power in WWE, but also selling WWE and making it so that not only is the McMahon family no longer owning World Wrestling Entertainment, they no longer run the show, unless you count Triple H, which by extension would probably be part of the McMahon family. Impact changing their name back to TNA, NWA on life support again. More things change. And AEW having its own bit of issues, which, part of it's on them. And I've addressed those concerns before. So, yeah. But perhaps the biggest shocker of all, aside from all of that, is going back to TNA Impact. There was a news article that dropped on Friday morning that Impact TNA has partnered with Endeavor on the launch of their own streaming service, TNA Plus. Endeavor, in case you have been living under a rock for the entire year, is the company that I just mentioned that bought WWE from Vince McMahon. So essentially, Endeavor has their hands in two wrestling cookie jars, WWE and TNA. Like I said, we live in the weirdest timeline. Of course, Endeavor also owns UFC, so there is that. Now, this doesn't mean that they're buying TNA from Anthem. This just means that Anthem is partnering with Endeavor to bring about the streaming service, which TNA Plus will be a streaming service. I'm trying to pull up the news article now. I probably should have done that before, but whatever. The streaming service will feature classic matches and I believe pay-per-views. So the upcoming pay-per-view where they're officially changing their name back to TNA, Bound for Glory, if I'm remembering correctly, is going to be on this new streaming platform. So let me just double check here. There's a lot of news articles. While I am well, that's interesting. Yoshitatsu has a podcast. I was today old when I found out that Yoshitatsu has a podcast. If you're a wrestling fan and you don't remember who Yoshitatsu is, do your research. So let's see. I am not seeing that news article. But essentially what the news article was stating was that the TNA Plus service will feature classic matches. So all of your X Division matches, all of your AJ Styles matches, Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels, pretty much everything that made TNA so great in the first place is going to be on this streaming service, but also it's going to have some of the newer content with guys like EC3, Eli Drake, now going by the name LA Knight. Those guys also in this streaming service. So the big takeaway from that, aside from the fact that Anthem and Endeavor are talking, is that this confirms news reports that Endeavor is willing to do business with other wrestling companies. It's not just going to be a strictly WWE house. So with this news, there's a lot of hope and a lot of optimism that WWE may partner up in a Forbidden Door style of partnership. Maybe not really like have a pay-per-view where wrestlers from WWE are facing wrestlers from New Japan and stuff like that, but like talent exchange. If you're not familiar with the talent exchange program, it's something that the major promotions did back in the 90s and even before then, where, say for instance, you have two wrestlers that are just not doing anything at all on your roster. You want to send them over to New Japan or to, we'll use a real life example. So ECW had two wrestlers that they wanted to port over to WWE because Paul Heyman and Vince McMahon had a working arrangement where Vince McMahon would exchange a couple of wrestlers from his end along with some money in exchange for wrestlers from the ECW brand as kind of a way to further a storyline that was going on. And the storyline was that Jerry Lawler was trying to recruit some of these ECW wrestlers like Rob Van Dam, like Jerry Lynn, like Bill Alfonso, and kind of creating this this faction within ECW that was looking to take ECW down. And in exchange with for Jerry Lawler and some money, ECW agreed to send over Too Cold Scorpio and Al Snow over to WWE. And that's where Al Snow came up with the idea for Head. Google Al Snow and Head. Just be sure you have your safe search feature on when you do that. Just a fair warning. Yeah. But Too Cold Scorpio would appear on Monday Night Raw during that time as Flash Funk. So the hope is that WWE and Endeavor will now allow kind of a cross promotion type of thing, similar to a talent exchange, where guys from UFC may show up and Impact. Guys from TNA may show up on Raw or SmackDown. I mean, we've already kind of got a taste of that a little bit with Mickie James showing up during the Women's Royal Rumble. I can't remember if it was this year or last year. But keep in mind, Nick Aldis, Mickie James's husband in real life, is now the SmackDown general manager. Just saying. So there is some hope in that regard. There's also some hope that Endeavor may want to do business with New Japan, may want to do business with the NWA, which the NWA right now could use some help. Just saying. Basically, Triple H is taking the Tony Khan business model and bumping it up a bit. That's the gist of what I'm gathering from all of this. It may not just be Triple H. It may be Triple H, Ari Emanuel, pretty much everybody over at Endeavor. This is also further evidence, as if the CM Punk negotiation wasn't evidence enough, that Vince McMahon is completely removed from the business and decision-making operations of WWE. CM Punk returning the way he did and signing the contract the way he did and negotiating that contract the way he did would never have happened under Vince McMahon's watch. This decision to bring in TNA Plus through Endeavor would never have happened under Vince McMahon's watch. He would have rather watched TNA die than lift a finger to help them. So, all of this is very exciting. All of this is very interesting. And it's going to be interesting to kind of keep an eye on TNA in 2024. Maybe AEW's spot as the number 2 promotion in the United States isn't as solid as we originally thought. Maybe. But then again, we are only hearing, grumblings and disgruntlement in the AEW camp from guys like QT Marshall and Matt and Jeff Hardy. I'm sorry, with all due respect, QT Marshall is barely adequate enough as far as a wrestler to even be on a main promotion, let alone featured. With all due respect to Matt and Jeff Hardy, this is no longer 2004. It's 2024. Well, about to be 2024. And Jeff has burned, much like CM Punk, Jeff has burned every imaginable bridge that he possibly can. And a lot of what's going on right now with the Hardys is on Jeff, not Tony Khan. if Matt wants to point his finger and blame people, start with your own brother. So, all of that said, I'm hoping that these new shorter form podcast episodes will be of interest to people. And I will let you know that there's probably going to be a Sports Central episode drop tomorrow. I'm actually going to record it. I know I said that I would only record one a day on the emergency pod, but I can't help it. I can't help. Well, I guess I probably should hold off on the Sports Central recording until after this joke of an in-season tournament final happens. It's not that I'm against trying new things. I'm against trying new things that suck. There's a difference. So, if you're listening to this on Spotify, leave a review. I'm open to any constructive criticisms or compliments or maybe suggestions. I'm also open to those same suggestions and open criticisms on Facebook and YouTube. If you're on Facebook, like, share, and comment. If you are watching this on YouTube, like and subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, leave a comment, and I will see you guys next time. Take care, have a good day, and remember to include your closing tags.